So, ladies and gentlemen, this interview is brought to you by Burn It Up Coaching and the 21-Day Challenge. And if you are someone who's an entrepreneur, high achiever, and you want to grow yourself, you want to achieve your 21-day goal, but you just feel like something's not quite right, you're lacking motivation, you're lacking desire, you feel like you're spinning your wheels, you feel like you're lacking clarity on what it is you're supposed to be doing and how you're supposed to be doing it, you got shiny object syndrome, any of that BS, throw it out the window and say you're ready for this 21-day challenge, because over 21 days, you will get one-on-one support from me on a daily basis, daily check-ins, weekly deep dive accountability, check-in calls to figure out what's working, what's not working, also going into your subconscious limiting beliefs that are keeping you from succeeding and achieving your results. And by the end of those 21 days, you will be a transformed human being, achieving your number one priority, your number one goal. So again, we're going to dial in your habits, your routines, your how you track your numbers, statistics, all that good stuff. That's in the 21-day challenge, getting you clear on your goal, your vision, your life, all that good stuff in 21 days. So if you are interested, send me a message. It is 100% not for everyone because it is intense as heck. So if you're ready for the intensity, if you're ready to take your life to the next level and truly achieve some spectacular results, send me a message and we'll see if it's a good fit for you. Now, the other part of this awesome intro is the iTunes review of the week. And that was left by Yogi Boo. And Yogi Boo says, genuine and transformational. Chris has a gift for asking the right questions and a style that motivates and makes me feel great. He is living into his work and sharing it in a meaningful way that will inspire you to take big leaps. I highly recommend it. So Yogi Boo, thanks so much for coming on for leaving a review on iTunes. We appreciate you. And if you want to leave a review, go to iTunes, search Becoming Your Greatest Possible Self, leave one there, or go to Facebook and you can search Becoming Your Greatest Possible Self there to leave us a review. We appreciate you for doing that and giving us your feedback and letting us know what you love and if you think there's room for improvement, how we can improve. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, Dr. Antonio Harrison. Dr. Antonio Harrison was born and raised in Pasadena, California during the late 80s and early 90s. The Los Angeles crack epidemic entered his home as his father became an addict. This led to many situations that changed his life, yet he remains close to his father to this day. After playing college football, he went to graduate school, earned his Ph.D. He is now a behavior scientist, husband, father of 3 boys, and a high school football coach who loves to help parents, especially fathers, build the best relationship possible with their children. We're going to have a lot of fun today. Antonio, you ready to rock this?
I'm always ready. If you stay ready, you don't got to get ready, right?
That's right. That's right. Stay ready, baby. Stay prepared. Dude, this is going to be gold. I love talking to you. And, we talked before about our fathers and that there's just so much opening up for me recently. And since you're, challenging or charging forward with this, I know you're going to have so much to share with our audience about that relationship with our fathers and cool stuff. Before we get there, though, I want to talk about the theme, which is 0 to 60 real fast. So, Antonio, how has this concept of going real fast and going from start to finish or start to maximum velocity as quickly as you can, how has that played a role in your life?
Well, I was kind of always 0 to 60 real fast as a young kid, especially being involved in sports. Mm-hmm. Go, give 100% as much as you can. And that carried over whether it was going to grad school and making sure that I knocked everything out on time and graduating on time. When it came to coaching football, getting the most out of my players at any point in time throughout the season, and even starting my own business. It wasn't let me dabble in it, let me see if this works. It was, no, this is what I want to do, and this is how I'm going to do it.
That's right.
Just going after it, man.
Beautiful, beautiful. So full force, everything that you do, you attack it, you go for it. I love it. So let's move into what you're working on today. I mentioned you're a behavior scientist. You're also coaching football. Tell us a little bit more about what you're doing.
So I've been teaching grad school for the last decade, but recently I put in my letter of resignation. Teaching is great. I love it. It gives me the opportunity to share my knowledge. But what I found out as I did more reflection on it is what I really loved about it was standing in front of people, sharing information, seeing people grow, seeing people learn, helping people out, being of service. And with Me being a son with a good relationship with my father, having 3 boys, coaching high school football, which is 60 teenage boys,
Mm-hmm.
having the educational background and life experience, it was like, what am I doing?
Mm.
Yeah, helping a lot of people get their master's and their Ph.D., and that's great. But my real gift is working with these young men, whether it's in coaching or whether it's working with parents who have children. This is what I love to do. Why am I doing this? So that's what I started to focus all my attention and energy on. And that's when the webcast, the podcast, putting out father-son retreats, resources of information on my website, anything possible I can think of to share with fathers is what I started doing.
Wow, dude, that's awesome. I love how you saw that your life was not unfolding to the potential that you're capable of. You felt like something's missing, something's not quite in alignment, and you said, I'm gonna pivot, I'm gonna do something different and see what we can create. And you created a website, you created a business, created a podcast. So dude, kudos to you for taking action on that and fulfilling on that part of your dream in your life, man. It's incredible.
Thank you, man. It's funny, a lot of people say, because I always say, I felt like I was destined to do something great. We'll be like, well, you got a Ph.D., you teach, you got kids and a beautiful family and a wife, you coach, like you've made it. And I'm like, nah, there's something else. There's something else, and I'm not sure what it is. And it took for me to stop thinking and start doing, realize what that was.
Dang, that's awesome, man. Great insight, and I know our audience is loving it so far. So let's dive back into the journey, okay? You got to today. I mentioned a couple things in the intro, like your dad was addicted and you had to deal with that. So tell us about how you became the Antonio that stands before us today.
Well, it was tough growing up. At the age of 10 is when I found out my dad was addicted to crack cocaine. I remember my mom used to have this thing where if she wanted to tell me something, she'd ask me to go for a drive with her. And so I always knew, like, she was like, oh, you want to come for a drive? I knew that meant something was up. At 10 years old, she just revealed it to me. And at that point, the innocent child, the creative imagination, that kind of flew out the window, and it was all reality based. All of a sudden, I was forced to be faced with the fact that my dad's an addict. All the stuff that's happening makes sense. And, I was put in some really tough situations, man. Everything from having your mom work 2 jobs to save up to get you a Christmas gift for it to be pawned on December 26th so that my dad could. I remember once it was just me and my dad at home, and he had just gotten a paycheck and he just couldn't wait. So he threw me in the car. We drove to downtown. He copped, and on the way back, he pulled over at a public park, left me in the vehicle for 3 hours while he used in the restroom. He would use and then once he got comfortable enough, because everyone knew, he would use in the home, and you would have to tiptoe around your own house because, that type of narcotic makes you extremely paranoid. So he would be at the window with a butcher knife looking out the window. And if you weren't careful, you didn't want to startle him.
Dang.
And so with that, and then him going in and out of jail and being incarcerated in prison, it took a toll on, me as a young man. I had to become a man very soon. And when I say man, I mean in the sense that I had to face facts. Pretend play with G.I. Joes in the front yard. That I don't know if I can curse on here, but
yeah, you can.
That shit doesn't happen anymore. Right? But people always say, with all that, how in the world do you still have a relationship with your father? He was always honest. He held himself accountable. He never lied to me about the stuff he did. He would fess up and be like, I'm the one who took your necklace and pawned it. I'm going to get it back for you. I'm trying to get a hold of this stuff. There's no excuse. I'm messing up. But because he took accountability and responsibility and was honest with me, it's a lot easier for people to deal with hurtful things if someone's being honest than to lie to someone when you know they're lying. So because he did that, it let me take a step back and say, my dad's got a good heart. This thing's got a hold on him that, people don't understand. So let me separate those two things and really focus on when he was present, when he wasn't using, when he wasn't in jail, how much he was around and supportive and how much love and honesty and truth he showed me in the world. And that's what I focused on, because that other stuff, that wasn't him. Drug.
Right.
So that's really what built up a lot of my fortitude and resilience to not let, I mean, let's keep it real, Chris, when you see shit like that growing up, I don't care what's going on in the real world out there, you know, with your friends, it's not as bad as what I feel like it's happening at home. I can handle it at this point. Right. So I never let anything stop me, you know? So dealing with that through high school, ended up going off to a small college in Iowa, Grinnell College, playing football there, and got an academic scholarship. I was a 4-year starter on the football team. And senior year, inside of my ankle touched my groin, man. And I had 4 surgeries. I was casted hip to toe for 8.5 months.
Wow.
It took me 1.5 years to walk again. And I wasn't coming back to California, but I had to for physical therapy because I literally couldn't take a shower by myself. Wow. And so after that all happened, I was able to walk and dance and run again. I was teaching elementary school. I was working 3 nights graveyard shift at 24-hour fitness and bouncing at a club at night on the weekends. I was like, this is for the birds, man. I'm spinning my wheels. Yeah. So I had to go back to grad school, and, you know, 5 years later, 3 kids later, and a wife, I was all of a sudden Dr. Harrison.
Wow. Damn. So you just made a decision that, like, this lifestyle wasn't fulfilling you. It's not going the way that you wanted to. You know, you're made for more, kind of that, again, that calling that, hey, I'm made for more than this. What's next? And then how did you decide to do grad school?
You know, I always liked school. I like learning, but I really like school for the social aspect as well, as I get to meet new people and hear their perspectives. School was something I was always really good at. So I was like, this just makes sense. I don't know what to do. I'm going to go do something I enjoy. It's going to be a 5-year stint. So I got some time to figure some things out. And, you know, so I went to a radio broadcasting admissions interview, and then I went to a grad school interview, and the radio broadcasting, I got accepted. And I was like, look, I got a grad school interview tomorrow. If I get accepted, I'll be back here in 5 years. Grad school accepted me, and I finished in 5 years. As soon as I got done in December, in January, I enrolled in radio broadcasting school for a year and knocked that out. And
damn,
it was just, they were things I wanted to do. And when I decide what I want to do, it's kind of hard to stop me.
Right. And you mentioned that you have this show, right? You've been doing radio and stuff for a long time. Tell us about that journey.
Yeah, so I first in radio broadcasting school, I met a fella who, he was wearing an Iowa Hawkeye sweatshirt. Never really said anything in class, real quiet guy. And one day we went out for a cigarette during break, and I was just like, you from Iowa? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, I went to Grinnell. And he's like, oh. And all of a sudden, that little common ground.
Rapport, yep.
Yeah. And next thing I know, we're in my garage with my sister's like 1992 computer and getting software and putting it together. And we worked on a show for about 6 months before we dropped anything. And then for 3.5 years straight, without fail, once a week, we produced a podcast called 230 Dudes. That was a history podcast, but where we did the research, but it was 2 smart guys who talked like regular dudes. Topic. And he ended up getting engaged and moving off to Oregon. But that was right around the same time I was like, I don't want to teach anymore. And started my own podcast webcast called Doc's Daily Dose for Dads, where 6 days out of the week, I give 5 to 15 minute short video clips or audio clips about a specific topic and advice. And then every Wednesday, we do a long format where it's about 30 minutes to an hour where I have guests or I spout off different topics for the hour. We bring in different resources. We do little series. So it's been a lot of fun, man.
That's awesome, dude. That's incredible. What attracted you to the radio broadcasting space?
When I was an undergrad, we had the opportunity to broadcast kind of DJ style and talk over college radio. And
wow.
I loved it. The only problem was they always gave me the slot either like Friday or Saturday night from like 11 to 1 a.m. And that was party time. Right? We at first we would get into it for the first couple of weeks, and then we would just play playlists and go out and party and come back.
Yeah.
Or bring the party into the radio room, the broadcasting room. But it was always something I enjoyed. I like hearing people speak and share their mind, even if I don't agree with it. It just feels like when you listen to talk radio or podcasts or webcasts like this, like people are talking directly to you. And whether they can hear you or not, you're shouting back at the screen, or you're nodding your head. It just, I like to talk, obviously, and I hear myself speak. I mean, that's part of the reason I was a teacher, man. So it just seemed to fit really well.
That's awesome, man. Awesome. So let's start diving into, Rebirth BX and what that means. How did you come up with that name?
So BX is psychology shorthand for behavior. And when I started thinking about what I wanted to call my company, I was talking to one of my senior football players. I was telling him, he's like, so wait a minute, you teach, you coach, you do a podcast, you do some video stuff, like you got all these jobs, you're just a Renaissance man. Like, Renaissance Behavior. So that was the name of the company. And as I thought about how to shorten it for social media, I was like, Rebirth Behavior. Everything that I'm doing is kind of a rebirth of self. Some of my behaviors, changing, trying to help people change their behaviors, because my whole focus as a behavior scientist, I'm not concerned, or I won't say I'm not concerned, but I'm not trying to change the way you think, man. People have their own thoughts and they deal with those. I want to make sure you're acting appropriate. So you may not necessarily like me that much, but I hope that you show me respect in your behavior by shaking my hand, looking me in the eye, giving me the time of day, smiling when it's appropriate, So that's what I was focused on, was changing my behaviors and kind of being reborn and helping other people, especially parents, change their behavior. So that's where that all came from.
That's awesome, man. Awesome. So let's start talking about how you transitioned into the phase of helping fathers and helping young men, especially. Tell us when that started and how that progression happened and what wisdom you've gained along that journey.
Well, it started before I even knew what I wanted to do. I'm very social and I was always in the mix, but I watch people, I observe them. So behavior science was just a perfect fit. Then, I started working with kids when I was 16 years old at after school programs, and like, I can kind of look, with all the tattoos and the ball that I can be in bigger stature, I can be a little scary or intimidating to some people, but with kids, for whatever reason, from young age, high school, college, like, they don't seem to be bothered, and they seem to kind of connect in terms of like just being really open with me. And it really hit me though when I became a head coach of a varsity football team. And I remember being at a banquet. We had a kid by the name of Lucas Kim. I'll never forget this kid. His dad spent a lot of time in Korea for business, so his dad wasn't around a lot. And in the middle of this banquet, he got up to speak about me in front of all these parents, including his own father, and said how much he loved his dad and no one could ever replace his dad. But that with his dad being gone, I filled that void. 26 years old at that time. Wow. And for me to hear that, like, he was up there crying, I was at the dinner table crying, there's all these macho football men in the room. There's not a dry face in the room. You know what I'm saying? So it really dawned on me the effect I can have by simply being there for somebody. That's, more than half the battle is just being present. So once I realized the impact I could have and how much some of these young men were looking up to me as I like to put it, or as one of my favorite rappers, Tupac, put it, a real model, not a role model. Because I always talk to them, I gave them the real. I never talked down to them or talked at them. I talked with them. And I gave them the real scoop of all my life experience. And so, once a lot of the stuff that people do in my field is working with children with developmental disabilities, autism, intellectual disabilities, and doing a lot of parent training. And I had a real knack for talking to parents and being able to have what I would call those come to Jesus moments with them, where a lot of people get scared, be afraid to have those conversations. That didn't bother me. So like I said, I stopped thinking about stuff and started doing things and finding my passions aligning and finding out that I like helping people. I like helping people when it has to do with their kids. I'm I'm good at working with kids. Like it named itself, man.
Yeah, dude, that's beautiful. I'm curious, like, what are some situations where you've helped these kids, and how do you go about, really making a difference for them and helping them through that phase of their life?
I got two stories for you.
Okay.
I'm a storyteller. I like stories.
I love them.
One story was a young kid in middle school. He's about to become a freshman in high school, and he had a pretty messed up home life situation. And you could see he wanted to do something, but he didn't know what to do. And so he started to fall into the wrong crowd, but he was a good kid. Like all kids are good kids, right. But he didn't want to be about that life. And he would come to me and talk to me about things. And I was like, well, what's your plan? What do you want to do? And he was like, I don't know. And I don't know what to do or where to go. And so the more and more I just got to know him and talk to him, I realized he really likes cars. Mm-hmm. Like cars were his thing. And he wanted to learn how to build cars and become a mechanic. So all I simply did was went out and talked to 5 or 6 different, small auto mechanics and body shops, and was like, look, I got a kid who you could really save from being on the streets by letting him come here after school and be an apprentice. Wow. You don't got to pay him. Just show him the ropes. If he works out and does well, maybe when he graduates, you can offer him a job. But right now, I need a space for this kid for something he's interested in to keep him stimulated and busy.
Yeah.
And sure enough, I found one right in the same neighborhood. And we got them linked up, and every day he was going after school. Instead of hanging out with folks he shouldn't have been hanging out, he was catching the bus to go work on cars. And that led to him graduating. By the age of 20, he opened up his own little mechanic shop and was also doing things in his own little driveway type mechanic.
Right.
And the last I heard of him, which was about 2 years ago, he's got 2 different shops opened up in 2 different cities.
Damn.
And now, I'm not going to take credit for all the work he put in. What it was about was finding something he was interested in and introducing him to that. Find things that people like and show them all the different avenues and paths they can have in that. Maybe you love skateboarding, but you can't skateboard. Well, you can design a skateboard, video record skateboarders doing tricks. You can hold events, right? All kind of stuff. The other one I think of was this kid when I was long-term substitute teaching. I walked into the class the first day, and it was a 10th grade class. And I'm trying to give this history lesson, the sub-plans the teachers laid out. And this is just acting an ass, man. But I'm the type, I'm not going to yell at you or ignore you. I'm going to fire back at you. You can handle as much as you give, right? And so we're kind of going back and forth as I'm giving the lesson plan, and he saw he wasn't going to win that battle. So he kicked it up a notch. And what he decided to do was pull out a little 12-inch plastic bong from his backpack and spark it in the back of the classroom and try to go the smoke. Now, most teachers would have sent him straight to the principal. He would have police come to campus, would have got arrested. I just put the chalkboard down and said, what the hell are you doing? What are you thinking? Took him outside, and I was like, just come outside with me for a minute. And I started talking to him, and I was like, you know what the sad thing is? You're so charismatic, and you don't even know the effect you have and the influence you have on all the people in this room. And it's unfortunate because of your charisma. And he kind of got quiet, and that ended the conversation. We walked back in, and about 10 minutes later, as I'm sitting at the desk, he walks up to me, and he's like, what does charismatic mean? I gave him a dictionary. I told him to look it up. He looked it up and read it, and you could just see on his face, it was the first time anybody had ever given him a compliment, man. Wow. He's always been the bad kid, right? Always the kid in trouble. And for the first time, someone recognized something positive in him. The rest of the time I suffered that class, that kid was my enforcer. That kid made sure no one acted up. He collected stuff for me. He was always on point. He would come during lunch to hang out and just talk more. And, I was only there for about a month and a half stint, so I'm not sure what happened to that young man. I'm not sure what happened to that young man, but I know that at least for that month and a half, he finally felt like he had someone on his side, man. Those are kind of some of the things that got me started here, and the wisdom I picked up along the way is, one, I'm not perfect. No one is. I'm not trying to be perfect. Two, I'm not trying to tell anyone how to raise their kids. I'm just giving you tips that have worked for me, that I know work. And if you're just present and listening to people, that goes a long way, man.
So I'm curious for the part of it that is, by the way, what you shared is awesome, man. And kudos to you for the impact that you had on these young men's life. It's awesome. In terms of not telling people like what to do, how do you know when you're like facilitating and teaching and doing a good service and educating people on a better way of doing things versus telling them what to do? How do you distinguish that?
One is I tell them, if you don't believe me, try it the other way. Want to keep getting what you're getting, keep doing what you're doing. Or give me 1 week trying it the way that I'm suggesting, and then come back and tell me. I'm not saying it's going to work. It may not be for you, but that's great. You tried it. Now you can tell me what didn't work, and we can move from there. Yeah. The other thing is, I'll give, like on my show sometimes, I'll give some piece of advice or suggestion. A week later, I'll come back and be like, man, I was full of shit. That didn't work at all. Right? Like, I thought that was going to work. I thought I'd be able to pull that off. That was just too much effort for me to have to do. Like, I can't, like, I don't think you should do it, but if it works. And I'm also willing to take suggestions from anyone else. I don't know it all. If you got something out there that you think can benefit me or my family, I'm going to try it. I will tell you if it didn't work, what didn't work about it. But if it works, I'm also going to give you credit for it. I'm going to take it as mine. So, again, you don't have to listen to me at all. But why not try it? If the person in front of you is trying to help you, why not take help?
I'm curious, in this world where maybe you don't experience this, but I know for entrepreneurs and especially coaches who are doing a lot of social media marketing and stuff, it seems like everyone has the answer to our problems and everyone has a solution, and we're almost inundated with choices of how we could solve this problem. How do you know when it's like when it's real, when it's real help and asking for that real help, or when it's just like another kind of another someone who's saying they have a solution but it's not really a solution? And how do you know which solutions to try?
I think, well, there's two things that come to mind. The first one is I love mindset, right? Like I try to put myself in certain mindsets. However, when I provide suggestions and tips, it's all tangible things you can do to observe changes. It's actual activities you can do and see the change. It's not just about, be this, now go off and fuck, right? Here are actual steps you can take. And the other thing too is, and I had to come to the realization with this because, starting out, when you're starting to do this stuff, you don't just get followers all of a sudden. And I had to realize everyone has their own messenger. I might not be the messenger for everybody, right? You might see the tattoos and my approach and the normal laid back style and be like, I need a Dr. Phil. I don't need this dude. I walk in somewhere and see a Dr. Phil and see me and be like, I want to talk to the guy with the tattoos. So I understand that I'm not for everybody. Everybody's not for me. But also what I do is I take in as much information as I can, and then I pull the bits and pieces that work for me and create my own thing. I started meditating. I tried like 15 different styles, man. But it was, I like that they kneel, but I don't like that they keep their eyes open. I like that they make the Om sound, but I don't like that they chant. I like that they have beads, but I don't like that they, are sitting for an hour.
Right.
Take the little pieces that work for me and fit it towards my life. I can't live someone else's life. I got to live what's right for me, man.
Damn, that's beautiful. And there's a willingness to trial and error, to experiment, to see what's going to work.
Right, exactly. Just like that's what science is, right?
Right. Experiment.
Yes, experiment, man. Way to find stuff out.
I love it, man. This is gold, and two things came up for me. One is going to be about what you learned in the history and talking and learning about all that history that you went through and learned through. And the second thing is going to be about your tattoos and talk about like meaningful tattoos and what they mean to you. But first, let's talk about the history. So what did you learn while you were studying all that history, and what did you see changing about yourself, the wisdom that you gained through those years?
Well, one of the big reasons I got into psychology was, one, because I like to observe people, but two, I wanted to know why my family was so dysfunctional. I wanted to understand where I came from. I wanted to understand other people. And my wife will always come to me when she meets new people or is going to do business with someone. And she's like, I want you to meet this person because I'm a pretty good judge of character off top, right? I can know, like, you might want to be careful with this person. They might have an ulterior motive type thing. And that was before the school. But with the history that I learned in school, the history I was doing with the podcast before, one of the things I learned is there's nothing really new. Everything has happened before.
Yeah.
Things just are in a cyclical pattern. They just repeat themselves. Now, they might have small variations, right? And you might say it a different way or have a different style to it that appeals to people in a different way. But, you know, I'll give you an example. People are up in arms nowadays, especially with racial injustice, right? And as a black man myself, I sit back and I think, this is nothing new. The thing new is that we have cell phones that can record it and put it on Facebook. This has been happening forever. Everyone is so outraged because it's 2018. Man, this has been going on for the longest. You just get to see it now by simply pulling up an app on your phone. It's the same stuff, just a different presentation. So that's really what I've learned, is that all the stuff that I'm learning, I'm just regurgitating in a style that works for me, that is in line with my ideals, in line with my history and my life experiences, and it's out a different way. But everything all of us have said has been said before.
Yeah.
You know, it really has. I mean, think about, I'm sure you read all kinds of books about people who have dealt with motivation. And when you think about the bottom line that all those books are saying, they're saying the same thing, right?
Yep.
Right? So, and that doesn't mean we stop saying it. It just means, you know, we got the formula already.
Yeah. Huh. And it's like mastery of the formula too, because there's a difference between hearing it once and then mastering it. So I'm curious what your thoughts are on going from a more of a like an initiate or, you know, an apprentice, kind of that beginning level, to a master. What have you learned about that, or what are your thoughts on that?
What I've learned is you'll get good at anything you're consistent at. You're consistent at being shitty. You're good at that. Like, for real. So if you want to be a woodworker, if you want to provide motivation, if you want to work with fathers and sons, you want to be a painter, a podcaster, the more time you spend on it, the better you're going to get. The journey's not always going to unfold the way you want it. I thought the 230 dudes I was doing was going to be our livelihood. We were going to make it big. Right. But what I realized is it just set me up for understanding all the mistakes we made in those 3 years to get my podcast off and running now. Without all those mishaps and missteps, I'm seasoned behind the microphone as opposed to, you know, when I first started. So I respect mastery completely. And I'll say, for me, I do think it's better to be really, really good at a few things than be okay at a whole bunch. Right? Because of all the access to information now, you can learn a lot about a little. But I'd rather be the go-to for fathers working with sons as opposed to anything and everything about behavior.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. The power of being a specialist is huge. You know, you get to command higher rates, you get noticed for that, and there's too many people trying to be all things to all people that doesn't, we can't penetrate the noise with that. We can't leave a lasting impact. It's just it's just another, person that's doing that. Okay, well, they can, good luck, have fun with that. So I totally get it, man.
And the one thing that I think is hard for people to understand with that too is, like, think of all the famous writers and painters who were masters at their craft. They weren't recognized until centuries after they were gone. Right? Like, sometimes we live in an instant gratification world, man, and sometimes it just doesn't happen like that. But if you're doing what you love and becoming masterful and skillful at it, it will affect someone's life. And one of my buddies told me, don't worry about followers and all that. You may not have 1 million followers or 1 million people hearing your message, but you might touch that one person who goes on to affect 1 million. So I'm cool with that.
Yeah. It's like, for me with my clients, I want them to succeed even more than me. Go out there, be shining, brilliant stars, because at the end of the day, it's about the results that you get, which is why people come to me. Like, it's not about the results that I get. They're like, oh, Chris Burns, that's awesome, but what can you do for me? It's like, well, look at this person and this person who I help. So I can definitely help you. So that I love that mindset. So I did want to also ask about the tattoos, man. What inspired you to get all these tattoos, and which are some of the most meaningful for you?
Well, I got my first one at 16.
Awesome.
I got my own money. My mom was always like, you could dye your hair blue, get tattoos, pierce, whatever. As long as you take care of your responsibilities, I'm fine. I got good grades. I balled out in sports. I did my course. I was respectful. So, I got to do things like be a 16-year-old with a half a arm tattoo, Now, that was probably the least meaningful one out of all, because I was 16.
Right.
It's a guy with a basketball, sports was my thing. But, like, looking back on it as a grown man, I probably wouldn't get that.
Right.
Probably the best artwork I have. The guy was really good. But everything else I have is related to family or an experience. I've got tattoos of my children, of my niece. I've got a family tree. I've got a tattoo that says sacrifice. I got one that says a humble heart is a humble soul. That's a tribute to my knee accident, because, quite honestly, I mean, I wasn't a bully or anything, but being a two-time all-conference freshman college athlete of the year, like, you couldn't tell me shit, man. I was Superman. When I went from Superman to having my linebacker, who was my roommate at the age of 21, having to help me shower, that's a humbling experience.
Yeah.
Like, you can't tell me anything to another man, can you please help me get in this shower, because I'm casted head to toe and I can't do it myself. So everything for me, all tattoos are have a significance of a place I've been or a situation I've been through. We just took the family up to Lake Arrowhead, and it was the best vacation we ever had, and it was the best family time we ever had. So I went and got a finger tattoo of the family's initials, and so I love it. It's artwork, and if you don't have a tattoo and you get one, expect to get more. They're addictive, man.
It's funny. I was talking to my girlfriend about it. I was like, I just haven't gotten to that place in my life where there's a tattoo that I'm ready to stick on me. And she has one on her shoulder. And she's like, she hasn't gotten another one in, 10, 12 years. And I was like, I don't know how you haven't gotten any more. Like, I would be getting them all the time.
Yeah, I plan to have the whole back, arms covered up. I probably will never do my legs, just because I'm not a big fan of leg tattoos.
Right.
But I've got a ton of ideas. It's just so expensive now.
Yeah.
Charge you by the piece. It's by the hour, man. And 12-hour tattoo, that can rack up the bill.
Yeah, dude. Another thing, just for your info, I don't know if you knew this. You might know it because you studied history. Like, tattoos in the past, some of them used to be like gold, right? Some of them used to be gold, and that was like a sign of like wealth and stuff. And like, you get tattoos with gold, and that was actually a conduit for energy, for them to contact spirit and all that kind of stuff. So I thought that was fascinating. I was like, damn, I'm gonna figure out what kind of tattoos I can get that will enhance my spiritual presence.
I like it. My buddy actually, he was getting into, he's doing a lot of spiritual growth. He's a Reiki healer, and he's getting into numerology, and he was finding your female goddess and your male goddess based off of your birthday. And my female was Sheshat, the Egyptian god Sheshat, and male was the Norse god Odin. Wow. And so totally getting those tattoos, man.
Yeah. That's awesome. Dude, I love it. I love it, man. So tell us more about like how you plan to help these fathers with behavior. You know, tell us a little bit more about that process, what you educate them on, what you look for. Tell us more about the father aspect of empowerment.
So one of the big things I hope to have, you know, the ultimate vision is a facility that has resources that people can come to. Yes. Holding father-son retreats where we get them away from the city out into the wilderness without cell phones, TV, and have conversations. You know, there are certain things that I do that enhance the relationship and teach other fathers to do. For example, you know, I don't know what your relationship is like with your father, right? Mm-hmm. It wasn't until, you know, as parents or as adults, we always say stuff like, back in my day, mm-hmm. together. But have you ever sat down and really heard your father's story? What it was like for him growing up, his peers, his parents, the things he went through, the trials and tribulations he had that led him to where he is today. Heard my father's story, having to leave home at 12 years old to a state with no money, no friends, nobody, and he's living on the streets. No. A life of crime seemed fitting. What was he going to do? He had to survive. Yeah. That's where his path went. So once you, it's not often that parents share their full story or that the kids ask. So that's part of the retreat too, is getting a chance to hear your father's story. Because relate to them as a human being as opposed to just dad. You know, another thing, I have parents come up with sayings. There are two things I do with my kids without fail every single day. Besides telling them I love them and hugging them and kissing them, which dads who only shake hands, fellas, you got to get rid of that. Yeah. Kids, hug them, love them. Yeah. But whenever I drop my kids off for school, I tell them, I want you to have a good day, work hard, be a good leader, have fun with your friends, and listen to your teachers. And then I say, what does daddy always tell you? And they repeat it with me. You're smart, you're kind, you're important, I'm proud of you, and I love you. Give them a kiss, send them off to school. Every day without fail. Wow. You can use words to tear people down, but you can use them to build them up too. Yes. And imagine if you heard something like that. You can make your own saying, but imagine if you heard some loving saying and something that instilled confidence and self-esteem every day from the moment you hit preschool until you graduated high school. Yes. Right? Yes. And then the other thing that I do, which I always give credit where credit is due. I took this from a gentleman from Mind Valley Academy, Vishen. I don't know his last name.
Lakani, I believe.
There you go. And Felicia Rashad, the wife. Uh-huh. And I combine some of the things they do. And so every night before the kids go to sleep, my wife, she prays with them. She's religious. And what I do is I come in and I ask each one of them, what are they thankful for? And then I ask them, what do they love about themselves? Wow. Then after that, I tell them what I'm thankful for throughout the day and what I love about each one of them. Something specific they did in that day, not just a general. Like, I love that you helped your brother figure out, the iPad. I love that you helped your brother go to the restroom when I had to, finish doing this class. You took him for me. Something very specific. And then after we do that, I have them repeat after me. The inner reality creates the outer form. The universe bears no ill will to me. I bear no ill will to it. And I become what I think about. Wow. Every night, man. And so I want them to have confidence to do anything in this world. And me doing that with them also helps me have that level of confidence. Yeah. So those are some of the type of things I teach dads to do. Those are activities. These are things you can sit down and actually do and make a habit every single day that will change the way you and your son have a relationship, or you and your daughter.
Beautiful, man. Beautiful. I love this. I love this. So I'm working on my relationship with my dad. It's great, and I always am committed to the growth. One thing I introduced to my family is having these like bi-weekly kind of Zoom calls where we do video calls and talk to each other. And I want to introduce more of a structure to it, like sharing what we're grateful for, sharing what we were challenged by over the week. And I want to ask about that, and then I also want to ask like how to build a relationship with my dad, like what you'd recommend in terms of like a weekly call or weekly context, structure to build relationship with a loved one. I'm curious if you have any suggestions on how to bring a family together to do it, and also kind of one-on-one.
Well, it's funny. I actually just talked about this on my long format podcast. You don't mind if I have a cigarette while we're talking?
No, go for it.
I'm me, man.
It's hot as hell over there. I see it.
Yeah, I'm over here sweating and shit. It's like 120 degrees in here. I actually just had a conversation or talked about this on my long format podcast today. My wife talks to her mom every day on FaceTime.
Wow.
Every day. Now, I don't want to talk to anybody on FaceTime every day. The only people I think about that I would be my kids. But then that puts in perspective, well, her mom wants to talk to her daughter.
Yeah.
Right? So I made it a decision because I'm really close to my family. They're over here all the time. While we are talking, they came by, just stopped by to visit the kids.
Wow.
And we have barbecues here, pay-per-view fights we order, all the holidays, everyone's at my house. But I was like, maybe not every day, but on Monday, I can call my dad every Monday at 6 p.m. I can call my mom every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Call my sister every Wednesday at 6 p.m. And just talk. It could be 20 minutes, it could be an hour, and it could be about whatever. So I think being consistent is key. The other thing too is you might have someone who isn't like that, who doesn't really reach out or engage with you like that. And you might have to be the bigger person all the time and continue to reach out. I found out I had two younger half brothers when I was 22. Wow. They were 18 and 16 years old. Wow. So I called their mom and was like, look, I don't, you and my dad and my mom, that has nothing to do with me. We are the byproducts of this, and we shouldn't, be penalized. I got two brothers. I want to know them. So I would pick them up, get to know them. And now they're adults with their own children. Now, they don't always make it to things as much as I'd like them to, or in touch as much. But when we have barbecues, I reach out, come on through. I want you to come by. I'll make it. That doesn't stop me from inviting them to the next thing. I stay being positive. I stay not throwing jabs or getting my feelings hurt, being like, well, if they don't respond, then I'm not reaching out. So just keep being positive and keep being consistent about it. At the end of the day, even if they never accept that offer, you can feel good knowing that you were doing the right thing throughout that whole time.
Damn, that's awesome, man. What do you have in your mind that has you be so consistent? Because I know for me, I in the beginning I was concerned about like what my family thought and what's the use and blah 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 blah. And after a while, I said, you know what? No, this is who I am, and these are the values that I bring to the people around me because I know that me showing up as my greatest possible self and empowering people through structure, through techniques and different things to focus on gratitude, to focus on what went well over the last week, focus on, hey, what didn't go well, how can we support each other as a family? Like that is useful stuff. So stand up for it and believe in it and be the champion of that in a way that's respectful, loving, and really gets people where they're at.
Well, I think one, your family really well.
Yeah.
Right. So don't go poking buttons you don't need to poke. Right. That level of communication sometimes is really, really difficult. But the more you do it, just like we were talking about earlier, consistency, right? Mastery. The more you do it, the easier it gets, the less aversive, the less uncomfortable it gets. Right. So just continuing to show that love, show that level of communication. And it made me think about going back to your other part of your question about your relationship with your dad and that structure. Mm-hmm. Yes. My suggestion to you, Chris, totally cool if it's about what are we thankful for and things like that, but work your way to it. Common denominator with your dad is the fact that both of you guys got bald heads and use the same razor, right? It'll lead to that.
Right.
But find the common ground. Me and my dad, when we don't have shit to talk about, we talk about the Lakers. We can always talk about the Lakers, right? So, it doesn't always have to be so serious or so monumental. Just the fact that you're having that conversation. And for me, being so consistent, it was something that had to do with my upbringing with sports.
Yeah.
Be consistent to perform properly. And one of my linebacker friends, I don't know if you can see one of these dudes up here, his mom approached me and she was like, I love what you're doing with your kid. And she's like, I want to tell you something. It doesn't matter if you're living in a cardboard box. If kids are with you and they know they're loved and they love you back, everything is okay.
Wow.
And so I just stick with that. Like, I've been through tough times, man. So I know what it's like, but I know that if I'm loved unconditionally by my family, I'm okay with the rest of the world.
So just making a point to experience and express that love is like, that'll just, the action will determine it. Like, hey, I showed up, and just know that I love you, and I'll be back next week because I love you and I love staying in contact with you. And it doesn't matter what we talk about. The content doesn't matter so much as the time and the goodwill, the gesture of, hey, I really do care about this relationship, so I'm willing to pick up the phone and dial you every week.
How in the world could you be mad at anyone who consistently says, I love you? No matter how annoying it is, it feels good. It feels good. Like, even people are like, man, he says that shit all the time, but damn, he must really love me. Like, you can play it off all you want. It's just like when you see parents like, oh, my son's becoming a teenager now. He doesn't want me to give him a hug or a kiss in front of his friends. Bullshit. He loves it. He just knows that he's going to catch shit for it as soon as you go. But he loves it. If you stop doing it, it'll hurt him.
Yeah.
Hurt him. Right? And it's never too late to start doing it again.
Wow.
It doesn't matter what we're doing, where we're going. If my mom and dad walk into a door, I say hello, I give them a hug. That's how we start. Whatever endeavor or situation or event or environment we're in. Because I'm going to acknowledge your presence as a human being, as my family member, as a loved one. I'm going to show you my love. And we can fight, argue, and fuss all we want after that. But then once we're done and you leave, I'm going to give you a hug again. And, that's all right.
What I love is that you're demonstrating that, like you said, no matter when you start or stopped or whatever it might be, whatever the story is, there's no better time to start than right now. There's no better time to take that next step than right now. And especially for parents who maybe haven't raised their kids to do this, it might be a little bit scary about how they would respond or react to like new love. They might get like, what the heck? But through consistency, showing them that you're coming from this place of love, when you're being love, when you're like acting through and with love, then that's what they'll experience, that's what they'll feel, and that's what you'll create in that bond between you two. And
it's infectious, man. Like when I think about reaching out to my younger brothers when they were 18 and 16, they were like, who's this dude? Like, even want to be a part of our life. We knew about you, but I didn't know about them. Now you want to be here, but I told them, like, this isn't something we created. We're created. You're my brother. Over time we built more rapport. But what I also got to see was my dad, who hadn't been in their life, stayed in my and my sister's life, and they felt some type of way about that. Yeah. He had to start from scratch building a relationship. But because I was around making it comfortable, it made it more comfortable for him to come around and my brothers to come around. Wow. The older one, he's got a real good relationship with my dad. Now the younger one still is kind of like, he's a little standoffish with it, but he can at least now be in the same room and have a conversation with my dad and laugh. Wow. Or he couldn't do that. Wow. But it wasn't anything necessarily that my dad did in taking a step to be like, I love you, I want to be in your life. He made that point after 3, 4, 5 times of coming to barbecues where I invited. So you can also be the liaison to that. And you don't have to put people in a room and sit them on a couch and be like, you know, you messed up and you messed up. We need to have a conversation. Put people in the same environment. They'll hash it out if they're around enough.
Wow. Yeah, that's beautiful. Beautiful, man. Any final pieces of wisdom for the fathers or the sons that we didn't cover yet in this conversation? I'm sure you have tons, and
I guess my final piece of wisdom, besides, because I said be present, is Batman versus Superman. Our kids look up to us as superheroes. Yeah. If you're going to be a superhero, be Batman, not Superman. Superman isn't real. Superman comes from another planet. Superman can blow cold air, shoot beams out of his eyes. He's strong. He's faster than a speeding bullet. Superman doesn't exist. Batman is a regular dude who uses his resources to fight injustice. Be a regular dude who does the right thing. If you're going to be a superhero to your kids, be a real one, not something that doesn't exist.
Damn. Okay. Antonio, how do people stay connected with you, and what do we want them to do next? This has been fire, and everyone, what Antonio is about to say, Dr. Antonio Harrison, you best stay connected with this man because he's a legend building his legacy. You're freaking awesome, man. I love it. You're so real. It's perfect.
You can go to the website, rebirthbx.com. My social media is at rebirthbx. iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music. You can find the podcast, Doc's Daily Dose for Dads. You can hit YouTube and see the podcast in video webcast format, Doc's Daily Dose for Dads. Feel free to email me, aharrison@rebirthbx.com. I will talk to anyone. Doesn't matter. So don't hesitate to reach out, because my whole goal is to provide as much service as possible for people, man.
Damn. It's beautiful, man. I appreciate what you do in the world, Antonio, and keep up the heat, keep up the great work, and I will be sure to be on your show very soon, and I'll keep spreading the word about it and let my dad know that I love him, and my whole family know, and just thank you for the energy and the presence that you bring to the world, man.
And I want to thank you, man. To do 12 hours and to keep up energy in hour 11, 12 as you are right now, you're killing it. Don't stop. I don't care what happens. Keep be consistent with it. No matter what your goals are, keep getting after it, man. I love what you're doing here. I love the way you're able to share and keep people fired up. I just taught a class for an hour and then my long format for an hour and came in here. I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do this, but your energy is what pulled me up, man. So keep it up and go hit my Calendly link in. And sign yourself up. I need to have you on, man. Stop playing.
I love it, man. I love it. Dude, stay up. Thank you for what you do, Antonio. I appreciate you, and we'll see you soon, okay?
No problem. Enjoy your day, man.
All right, take care.